What's up, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the
Geek Buddies!
Hey! We're back at it for our end of the week episode, and hey, do we have a lot to talk about on this particular episode? So much going on here, fresh off the merger that has happened, or not the merger, but the WB sale that has apparently gone through to Paramount, shockingly, with Netflix pulling out from the process here. We're going to talk about that. We're going to get into some Spider-Verse news. We're going to get into some DC news. We're going to get into some G.I. Joe news and some tidbits as well around the world of entertainment that's happened over the last
lots of tidbits. Lots of tidbits.
Lots of bits of anyway. Hey, so let's introduce ourselves. I am John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Geek Buddies.
I am Michael Vogel, writer and producer of animated TV shows, movies, and video games.
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a film and television actor. And the last time I talked about auditioning for a film on here, I ended up getting it. So I actually had an audition for another movie earlier this week, and it went pretty well. So I'm throwing that out there, like maybe history will repeat itself. We'll see.
Is it another big IP? Can you say? Are you allowed to say?
No.
Oh, no. Okay.
It's with a big filmmaker, but it is not it would not be a big movie unless she's listening, and it would be huge.
So you're not reading for Nora Dent.
No. Shannon, would you like to rebut our comments about you on the previous episode and about your height and the way you walk around Hollywood? Anything you want to say about any of those comments from the last episode? I just want to make sure I give you a platform to speak back against it. Are you good? Are you okay with that?
Platform because I'm short, John? What?
No. I meant,
I don't like what you said. I'm going to crawl up on my egg crate right here, and I'm going to tell you what I think.
That would have sounded a lot better if your correct microphone had been hooked up. You sound like you're in a tin can right now.
I don't know what's going on with your mic. Yeah. Have you selected it correctly? I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, we got so much to get into here on the Geek Buddy, so let's not waste any time and jump into it. This just broke as we were about to do the show, about an hour before we were about to do the show. This is happening for Paramount. Max Landis, disgraced Max Landis, who was quote-unquote canceled during the Me Too movement, is writing a screenplay for Paramount for G.I. Joe. They've tapped him to do this, but at the same time, Danny McBride will also be working on a separate script for G.I. Joe. According to several sources, the studio will then try to blend the two scripts into one, but a studio source says that these are two separate projects at this point, and legendary producer Lorenzo Di Bonaventura will be producing this situation. Mike, you've been in these meetings before. You've been behind the scenes with Hasbro before. This idea of two scripts at the same time being written and Max Landis being brought in from out of the cold to write the script. Your thoughts on all this?
Well, first, can you hear me appropriately now?
Yes. Perfect. Well done.
All right. Then I would like to start by saying, I'm going to crawl up on this egg crate right here, and I'm going to tell you what I think about things.
Okay. We got that out of the way.
Thank you.
Zing.
I mean, where do you want to break down on this one? What do I think about?
I gave it to you first.
What do I think about them making a G.I. Joe movie? What do I think about script? What do I think about them writing two different G.I. Joe scripts? What do I think about Max Landis getting hired again after being canceled for so long? Or what do I think about Danny McBride, and could he write a G.I. Joe movie? Where to begin? Listen, man, G.I. Joe is one of those things that if they don't crack it soon, it's just past its prime. Right. Like the people that grew up loving this animated series about a group of soldiers that kind of dressed like the Village People, but were pretty cool soldiers and battled Cobra. That generation is about gone, and Hasbro has just never quite landed. Like, the best that G.I. Joe has been in recent years is in the Skybound comics, along with the Transformers comics. Sure. But like cracking G.I. Joe on the big screen, they had two at-bats. Neither one of them really, ultimately, unless you are the hardest core G.I. Joe fan, did what Hasbro wanted it to do. I feel particularly burned because when I was at Hasbro, we did G.I. Joe Renegades, which I thought was a pretty good take on G.I. Joe. We got one full season, and then they never released the toys, and we were all really pissed about it. But now that Paramount is going full forward with the Ellison era, them trying to crack, a real American hero feels like it's in their wheelhouse. So maybe there's something that they can do with it from their specific perspective of the kind of stories that they want to tell that might work. Danny McBride, who I think is very, very funny, and a very good writer, don't know that I want the Righteous Gemstones treatment of G.I. Joe. It's not really what I'm looking forward to. And then Max Landis, who arguably could have a pretty good G.I. Joe story in the chamber somewhere, just given the types of scripts and movies that he's worked on. Him coming back into the fold just raises a lot of questions about the kind of people that Paramount is going to be working with, but then it also raises a bunch of questions about cancel culture in general. And once you are canceled, can you ever be uncanceled? And should we allow for that? And so I don't really know how I feel about that, but all of those things being discussion points, in general, I think when you have two separate writers working on two separate G.I. Joe scripts so you can see which one is better, or you can Frankenstein the both of them together to come up with a story, does not give me very high hopes about them finally cracking G.I. Joe.
Yeah, and to be fair to Max Landis, he has a few years ago, he took ownership of all of these allegations and said that he realized he was a toxic person and he was working on himself. So it could be you've got to create the space for people to be confronted with stuff. And then if they do the honest work and they make the changes, then you have to create a pathway for them to be able to come back. You know, there's nobody who was more vilified than Mel Gibson after his comments. And yet, because he did his own path for a little bit, he got back to the point where he was nominated for Best Director for Hacksaw Ridge. So there are avenues to come back. Is this part of it? I don't know, but you add an unnecessary amount of baggage to the situation when you make this decision. So Shannon, your thoughts on this choice and the idea of two different writers and two different comedic sensibilities writing these scripts there and possibly combining.
Well, I mean, I would not have picked Danny McBride to creatively be involved with the Halloween trilogy either. And granted, like, I'm not a Halloween guy, but and from what I hear, it was sort of the law of diminishing returns the more that version went on. But that first one seemed to have resonated with an audience. The idea of writing two scripts at the same time and like we're gonna pick whoever we like best, for me that kind of sounds like they're not actually that jazzed about either. So because if you have an idea that you really want to get behind, you get behind that idea. And the theory that let's take both of them and smash them together, that I don't understand how that creative process works. Granted, like maybe these two ideas are similar. I'm not sure. To the Max Landis thing, like, yeah, I mean, he took ownership via YouTube. And at the end of the day, if what he did for you as an audience member is just it's just too far, vote with your dollars. Don't go see it. I mean, that's the only way you can really tell the studio you did not like what they did. Yeah. So, I mean, again, like I kind of wonder if they've talked about giving the Barbie He-Man treatment to G.I. Joe, like, let's just take these folks, like what Community did almost, like with their G.I. Joe episode, like, let's take the 80s, put them in the real world, let's see what happens. Granted, that idea probably feels a little also ran now, but yeah, I mean, I do think G.I. Joe, I think there's value in it. I mean, yeah, but how do you do that with the complicated feelings about the American military?
Yeah. Well, that's been Hasbro's problem for decades now, is they've never quite, not even dealing with how America feels about America, but G.I. Joe as a international brand is more challenging to sell than, like, say, Transformers, because Transformers, everyone can get behind a giant robot that turns into a truck no matter where you live. But as soon as you're like, these are real American heroes outside of America, it's the same reason the first Captain America movie was just called the first Avenger in some territories when it came out.
What if the G.I. Joes all turned into Harley Davidsons? Would that,
there you go. Now we're talking.
That make it better?
But to Shannon's point about writing to Shannon's point about writing 2 scripts and not being excited, like it is not unheard of to do a bake-off in Hollywood, to have like multiple people sort of pitching on a project or writing scripts. And so when you have an IP and you're just but to Shannon's point, that's usually because you don't know what to do with it and you don't really have a take that you're excited about. So you do kind of throw things out there and say, all right, well, let's give it to this person and see, and let's give it to this person and see. And going back on what I said before, there's a world where you're like, is Danny McBride the guy to write G.I. Joe? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is Max Landis someone that we're going to work with, and are we ready to uncancel him? I don't know. Let's have them both write a script. And if either one of them is really good and gets us excited, okay, cool. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like it's the craziest thing in the world, but it definitely does speak to I'd say a mild interest in G.I. Joe without having any idea what you really want to do with it.
Yeah, and it's not, as you said, Mike, it's not unheard of. The Hollywood Reporter article states that Warner Brothers Tarzan and Universal's The Mummy, which were rebooted there, had writers working on 2 versions before their elements merged or one script raced ahead. Paramount previously put its Transformers and Star Trek movie franchises on multiple tracks with several scripts developed. I mean, we've heard that there's 2 Ray movies that they were writing there over on the Star Wars side of things with Sean Levy's Ray movie, and then whatever Sharmeen Obaid, whoever the latest writer is right now for that Ray movie over there as well. So it is possible. It's just an interesting decision by Paramount to bring in Max Landis, right? This is a very bold move to put him on an IP of this attention getting and this note, right? You bring in someone like Max Landis. So is this an idea of like, look, we're going to uncancel people? Is that what we're saying? Or are they giving people a chance who they feel maybe have done the work, done the time, and now they are incredible talents? We want to see what they can do. I think it's going to be curious to see what they come up with, what he comes up with. Because, I mean, if you look at the stuff that he's done on the DC side of some of his YouTube videos, the man knows DC really well. Is this even a dry run for if they do complete this merger and get WB, that they start looking at Max Landis to write some of these DC movies if they move on from James Gunn? It's a very interesting thing to consider. Is this a dry run to see how the public takes this stuff? So, but if you're Danny McBride and you've been writing on this thing, this is kind of a kick in the teeth, isn't it?
Man, maybe. Who knows? I don't know what all Danny McBride's working on. Maybe he's like casually into his G.I. Joe movie and he's like, cool, I don't care. Pay me my paycheck. But it is, I mean, to your point about the Max Landis of it all, given, you don't really know. Like, on the one hand, I don't know Max Landis. I don't know, none of us know Max Landis. Like, unless you know Max Landis personally and you know whether he is genuinely turning over a new leaf or just saying what he needs to say, like, none of us can say. So, like, I don't know that. None of us can answer that question. But I don't think that Paramount is going to make every creative decision that they make based on politics, but based on the politics of the people that are running Paramount, the idea that they are like, a lot of people have been wrongly accused and the culture wars were the left doing this, we're going to give people another shot, is probably being discussed in those hallways. I would be shocked if it wasn't. So I think that is definitely at play in some of the decisions that they're going to make. Look, Paramount, it was the Skydance Paramount merger, and Skydance hired John Lasseter.
Yeah, right. So, exactly. Yeah.
Same thing that they're like, look, John Lasseter did a lot of creepy things, probably one of the biggest falls in animation, in modern animation history, going from being the guy who runs Pixar and Disney to being canceled. And Skydance was like, look, John Lasseter, we'll take him. We'll take him because whatever happened in his past, he's still John Lasseter, and we think that he's going to be able to turn our animation studio around. Thus far, Skydance hasn't done that, but we'll see what they have in the future. But so it is seemingly part of the DNA to be like, we're going to go find these people that we want to give a second shot to.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation when we bring up Lasseter, because there are reports that have come out over the last 48 hours that there's a lot of turmoil going on there at Skydance Animation connected to John Lasseter. So that's what I think at the end of the day, you give people these opportunities. Okay, fine. You want to bring him from the cold. Listen, you bought the studio. You have a right to do this. It's yours. And if you want to overcome the anger or whatever, that's the proof is going to be in the pudding. Like, is the film good? Is this person the right hire? Do the people come and watch it? that's really going to be the ultimate decision maker at the end of the day. And so we'll see when this whole thing goes down and which script they choose, or if they combine them both for a G.I. Joe. But
honestly, my money is still, and we'll see what happens with it. But like however many months ago we talked about it, Skybound and Robert Kirkman doing an animated Transformers G.I. Joe movie and or series, for my money, 1,000% chance that that's going to be better than any live action G.I. Joe movie that Paramount makes.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. And this is an interesting situation. Will Paramount lean into yo bro G.I. Joe, or will they lean into something that's a little more nuanced? It's going to be interesting. Like, do we get the Expendables, or do we get Three Kings? What are we going to get? So, this is the question I have. Yeah.
To be fair, I don't know that G.I. Joe, the Real American Hero toy line, is the place to get into the nuances of the American military. So
it's fair.
I mean, totally anybody cracking G.I. Joe probably is wise to go down the yo bro road with G.I. Joe. Like,
we'll see. We'll see.
His name isn't just Shipwreck. He's wrecked on the inside.
There you go. All right, let's move on to another person who has caused reactions around the world for a while now. Zack Snyder was on Josh Horowitz's podcast here, which is a really good podcast. If you guys haven't listened to this Happy Sack and Feud podcast, highly recommended here. But he was talking about what's going on with Justice League and his opinions on Superman. And he was talking to Horowitz and his take on whether they could make Justice League sequels. Michael, it's not over. He said, I would never say that there's no way. I would never, because I was on the ride that created Justice League. And if you were in my shoes, there were numerous times, dark times, when I would say there's no chance that there will ever be my version of Justice League. It will never exist, and it can't. But they also raised a ton of money for all that they did here. But as far as going forward with an animated version, he said, we've actually talked about it quite a bit. I mean, we live in a world where all that's possible, and whatever form it would take, that would be amazing. And as far as Superman, he was very complimentary on Superman and spoke about it. He said, James has been very kind. I wish them all the best. James is singular in his storytelling and his ability to channel a mythological pop culture into what I would consider an iconic and very particular point of view that's both poignant and funny. He's the best at it that I can think of, and I think that he's a great steward of that world. That's great for the fans. So Shannon walking both lines, this guy, Zack Snyder here. Yeah, I'd love to do more, and James was great. So your thoughts on this situation, on his comments?
Well, Zack Snyder making any sort of live action sequel to what he's done, he can't do that by himself. There are 7 people that he would need to get on board as well, or 6 people. And that's what I don't see happening. I mean, if whoever ends up being in charge of DC or Warner Brothers, if they were to offer Zack Snyder that chance, would he jump on it? Absolutely. But that's not something he can do alone. Which is why, I mean, even the animated version, I'm kind of like, is there a big enough audience out there to justify making that? I actually don't know. I think if you were to go like the comic route, I'm like, okay, yeah. Like I think enough people would be curious about that, but I just don't know why we're still talking about this. Like, I mean, it sure seems like it's in the rear view mirror. But I mean, to echo what he said, like, it certainly seemed like there was no way this was going to happen. And Zack Snyder's Justice League did end up happening and was a massive improvement on what we got in the theaters. But yeah, it's funny because like reading the text of the interviews, then watching as he is talking about James Gunn, I'm getting more of a professionally polite vibe rather than James is great. Like he's the only guy that can do that. I think when you actually see the way he talks about it, he's being professional. Does he actually think that? Maybe. Having seen him at Comic-Con, he is boring.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Like that Watchmen pan, I was ready to jump into traffic. But I'm so curious when this is ever going to go away, because if they do make let's say they make the comic and let's say it's successful. They're like, haha, see, we gotta, you gotta reunite Zack's Justice League and get it in the theater. Like, I don't know, man.
I mean, we just finished talking, Michael, about Paramount bringing in someone like Vax Landis and the idea of maybe some of the right-wing sensibilities of Paramount. Certainly someone like Zack Snyder is seen as a right-wing hero for a lot of people. So would Paramount buying WB now with this possibility of him doing a Justice League 2 and 3, which he says he has plans for, animated or otherwise, is that now possibly in play? And has he sensed this from the beginning? Your thoughts on these comments?
Look, I too do not know why we keep talking about this, but like Zack Snyder said in that interview, his movies are like a weed that won't go away.
Wow. Okay.
His words, not mine. He said it.
I know.
I'm just literally quoting the man. He referred to it as a weed that won't go away, and I think that was apt. Yeah, look, who knows what's going to happen with this merger, and who knows what's happening with Warner Brothers, and who knows what's happening with James Gunn's universe or the DC universe in general or whatever. So in a world where it's like David Ellison loved Zack Snyder's Justice League and he's like, I'm going to champion this, like, sure, it could happen. But like, it's just, why? Like, just let it be, man.
I don't think he's going to, bro.
He won't. But it's like, it's like, buddy, I get it. If I had made those 2 Rebel Moon movies, I'd probably not stop talking about Justice League either. Like,
that's fair.
I get it, but like at a certain point, but then it's our fault because then we're talking about it. Like, he talks about it and then we get on here and we say the exact same thing we said 1,000 times about it. I agree with Shannon about the professionalism. Like, there's no world where Zack Snyder liked James Gunn's Superman movie. He might respect it. He might have. No, I don't mean this in any kind of like beef way. Those two could be best friends, and Zack Snyder would not like Superman. Everything that James Gunn did about Superman is all the stuff that Zack Snyder is not interested in superheroes. Like that, and that's not any kind of like discussion on which one is right or which one is wrong. When it literally at a base level, when Zack Snyder talks about DC heroes, he talks about gods, the struggle of being an outsider, the struggle of being an alien, these superheroes as our modern day Greek mythology. And James Gunn does a Superman movie and says, I don't want to talk about him being superpowered or being alien. I want to talk about the human part of him. And do a very bright and shiny, fun Silver Age universe. And Zack Snyder lives in a dark and stormy, rainy universe. Like, it literally is just as far apart as you can get in the aesthetic. Both are valid. Both have references from the comic books. Both are perfectly acceptable takes on how to say this is what I like about Superman. But they are so diametrically opposed that there's no world where Zack Snyder sat in that theater and said, now this is a great Superman movie. Like, he just didn't. Like, which I don't think he should say. I think what he said is what you should say as a director who works in the same medium. Like, I would also say, were I to critique him a bit, I would say, you should say, I had my time and I got to tell my story, and now it's James' turn to tell his story. And the great thing about these heroes is every director and creator who steps into these shoes gets their chance to tell their stories. He doesn't say that. He says, oh, no, my thing and his thing aren't the same thing, and mine is a weed that won't go away. So,
but I think you go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm on the other side of this. I think he actually is genuine on this. I don't agree with Shannon when he said, I can't wait to see the next movie, and it's just awesome. And I watched him. He seemed genuinely excited to see the next Superman movie. And all the 3 of us, read comics where we love The Dark Knight Returns, and then we love the cool little Batman Brave and the Bold stuff. We love stuff that isn't necessarily the same aesthetic every time. So why can't Zack Snyder like movies that aren't necessarily the same aesthetic about these comic book heroes and appreciate them for what they are? And as I think he actually did like it. I think he sat in that theater and enjoyed it as a different take. That being said, though, I think he still thinks he's got some unfinished business here. And I think there's nothing wrong if he's asked about it to talk about this kind of stuff and say, like, maybe you never say never. I'd love to do it. I have plans for 2 and 3. If it opens up, I'd love to do it, because he loves these characters. You may not agree with his take on these characters, which I do. And I know that he loves these characters. So I think he's just talking about it in a sense of like, he's putting that out there. He's putting that energy out there that if something breaks, something opens up, he is more than willing to do it and have conversations.
He's for sure putting that energy out there.
Yeah.
He's literally the ex-boyfriend who's just like, by the way, your new boyfriend is great. Love the guy. Great energy. Such a sweetheart. By the way, if you ever get tired of the nice guy, I'm here. Like, that's literally what he's doing.
Have you had that conversation? Have you done that?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say both sides. I've been the Zack. Sure. I've been the James.
I'm sure, depending on the person, for sure. Oh man! All right, let's move on to some animation stuff. Let's talk about this. Beyond the Spider-Verse, we're starting to get more and more information on this, and we had the people who were behind all this talking about it. Of course, Lord Miller with what's going on here with Project Hail Mary coming up. I get to see it next Tuesday. I'm looking forward to this. But they were interviewed for Gizmondo. I don't even know what Gizmondo is, and they were talking about Spider-Verse, and they had some comments about it. It said at one point it was one movie. The Spider-Verse thing was just one movie, but there was too much movie there, so it was separated into two. But then once you looked at the second half of the movie, you're like, well, that's like not just a story arc that has a beginning, middle, and end. We know where it's headed, but we need to understand better what's happening in the middle. And we came upon a really wonderful notion, which is when your family is broken apart by your calling, your talents, how do you put them back together? How do you have it all? We put the most pressure on ourselves. There's no one that puts more pressure on us than ourselves, wanting to outdo ourselves each time. And I see things that you haven't seen before and make it feel like something you've never experienced before. And so trying to get something that is worthy as the previous two has been the driver. So that's a very pleasant way of saying we got in trouble with our VFX stuff, so we had to backtrack and take a look at this and look at it all differently, but we want to deliver the best product for you. Michael, your thoughts on these comments here from Lord Miller?
That's definitely a part of it, but I don't think that I think that what they're saying is genuine. You know, when the
intention, yeah.
Like I think they're what I like. Here's what I like about what they're saying is like they're copying to the fact that the second movie, like they had the strong first half, and then when you got to the second half of the story, which is going to be the third movie, they realized it wasn't all there. Like they did not have it all figured out. And what I particularly like about Lord and Miller, and this is why, you know, as we were talking about them with the Project Hail Mary buzz last week or earlier this week or whenever that was, I think they very rarely lose. And what I love about it is in a world where we talk about these superhero franchises, you're like, oh yeah, this didn't work, but they're bringing in a new villain, or they realized they needed a bigger set piece at the end, or the action was lackluster. These guys are talking about thematic stuff that actually makes us care about the movie. Like their issue was, the first half of Miles discovering the Society of Spider People and the canon events and Miguel O'Hara saying, you've got to let your dad die. And then him like, I'm not going to do that, and defying everybody and everything. And then him ending up in the other universe where he's the Prowler. Like that's all really good. But the back half of that story where you were just going to resolve it all, they were like, is that really enough? And kind of landing on this idea of, you know, you have this thing that you loved that you want to do that is your career or your future or your job, and doing that breaks your family apart, and you can either do what you love or heal your family, but can you do both? That's really compelling. And that makes Miles' story, as much as it's awesome and cool and visually supposed to be amazing, that gives it some heart. And that's why I think Lord and Miller do so well, because when they think about these things and they're looking at the problem, they're going, this is what makes this movie actually work. And then all of the other stuff with the visual effects and bringing on this live action DP that we talked about and all those things, that's what makes it look great and makes us all go, wow. But if you don't have that thing underneath, the wow doesn't really do it. And the Spider-Verse movies have been so good because it gives you both.
Yeah. Shannon, your thoughts on these comments from Lord Miller about their third installment in the Spider-Verse franchise and why it's been delayed for a bit?
I mean, a couple of things. Like I think both of the theories that you guys threw out there, I think the truth might be somewhere in the middle, in that the way sort of the VFX stuff went down with the second movie, that it's like, hey, let's really nail down what this is before we start spending millions of dollars on sequences that might end up getting tossed. But I do agree with Vogel that something, and this is a Lord and Miller, not a problem, but it's a Lord and Miller specific situation, that their resume, what they have spearheaded, has been so strong that the folks in charge at the studio are willing to let them do this. I think there are, rewind to Solo, and Kathleen Kennedy made that call of like, hey, there has to be someone on set with you all. You need to have a minder to make sure that this proceeds smoothly. And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, they're actually the ones that stepped away. That said, like, that's not how we do it. We're gonna step back. And hindsight's 2020. I think Solo is a fun movie. I'm way more curious what we would have gotten had they been able to complete the assignment. So I mean, I think it's I like the idea that the studio does have so much confidence in them to afford them all this extra time. The fact that the third one was supposed to come out in 2024, right? And it was getting pushed to it was actually taken off the schedule completely. And now it sounds like next year. It's next year, right?
Yeah, June 18th. Yeah.
So we're finally 3 years later, we're finally going to get this movie. And the fact that they went off and directed Ryan Gosling in a movie, in the interim, I'm excited about what we're gonna see. But will the wait have been worth it?
Yeah,
we'll find out.
Yeah, I always bet on Lord and Miller. I mean, their track record is so strong, and whatever you need to say, in terms of the approach and why there were delays or whatever, I think it's totally fine. And you can couch it in that we were working on it. And I think you're probably right, Shannon. Somewhere in the middle is the truth. They were ready to go with this thing in 2024. Then all that drama popped up with that article, and it caused them to take a step back. And maybe that was a blessing in disguise, because they looked at the story and were like, maybe we're not going to nail it quite right. Let's take more time with this. Let's let this heat die down a little bit. Now we're going to put this out, and look at this. We're going to be coming right out of Project Hail Mary, which a lot of people are already predicting might be a Best Picture nominee, which means it'll be the season will go into March of next year, and then you have this thing come out in June. So you'll still be fresh in people's minds and the excitement of it all. So I think it might work out all the better for them by the time it debuts in June of next year, June 18th of next year. So we'll see. All right, one last thing. Let's talk about this Daredevil Born Again. There's some news that dropped on this one here in a recent interview with SFX via Games Radar. Daredevil Born Again showrunner Dario Scartapane, I hope I'm saying that right, confirms that the upcoming second season will wrap up the Mayor Wilson Fisk storyline ahead of a very different third season in 2027. He said the second season, the Fisk administration at this point has really taken hold. At the same time, there's a bubbling up of an underground. New York is being transformed. One of the things we've leaned into is that time has passed between the end of the Netflix show and the beginning of ours. We're acknowledging that. These characters have matured. They've gone through life. And Jessica Jones, bourbon swilling smartass, what's it like for her to mature for 7 years? And as we finish up Mayor Fisk's run with season 2, the storyline comes to its inevitable conclusion. What we're doing going forward feels more like a return to the Frank Miller era comics. So yeah, it was fun to play in the realm of politics, but I like something a little more street level personally. So that's I love these words. Shannon, your thoughts on these words? You love it?
I think I will not be able to fully tell you what I think of these words until we get to the end of season 2, because season 1 was such a mishmash of everything. Mixed bag,
yeah. I agree.
And if the new showrunner was able to come in and like, again, we saw a little of this, a little of that. If this showrunner fully in charge of what the season is going to be, of where the story is going to go, if it turns out well, I'm like, he has earned our trust. Take me on another adventure. I do think it's funny that he's saying like it's going more street level, and I'm like, kind of what it is now. I mean, granted, yes, you do have, Fisk is the mayor and everything, but I'm not expecting to see any portals opening up in Hell's Kitchen as Daredevil's fighting, and we get the multiverse version of Daredevil. I'm really crossing my fingers hard for the show, because season 1 was just, Netflix really nailed it with their version. I mean, even season 2, which I did not love. I mean, I still think season 2 is about as good as what we got on Disney Plus. So I'm just hoping that they are able to nail this show. And Jessica Jones coming back, Kristen Ritter, you want to talk about someone that's kind of born to play a role. Her dynamic with Matt and the Defenders, which I cannot overstate how underwhelming I found the Defenders, but their dynamic together, I'm like, they're very fun to watch as a duo. So I'm hoping that they're not just using her in the promos, that she does get to play a significant part in the series.
Can't defend the defenders. That's fair. Michael, your thoughts on these comments and where they and invoking the holy Frank Miller approach here to Daredevil.
I mean, listen, if I was told let's veer away from politics and tell stories that don't feel like they are ripped right out of the headlines of our current political climate, that's probably the way that I would frame it too.
Yeah.
But I do think that, listen, and it's one of those things. It's like, and either you love it or you hate it or whatever, but like there's enough about the Mayor Fisk storyline that feels so close to, we're making a political commentary on what's happening today. Now, some of this, first of all, this story existed, the Mayor Fisk storyline predates anything in our current political discourse. And I believe when it was first being worked on, it was, like there's no way they could have anticipated some of these things like with ICE and other stuff. But I do think somewhere in the Marvel Disney chain, somebody was like, hey, maybe we don't keep doing this. Listen, we are rooting for you too. Like we listen to the Geek Buddies, and Shannon McClung is really, really rooting for season 2, and we got to turn things around. But maybe having a leader of a city being a bad guy who is employing a bunch of people to go out in armor and masks and do things that are questionable is not what we want to do to really get the entire country on board with this new take on Daredevil. Why don't we get rid of this and move into, just some bad guys? Daredevil's fighting bad guys in the street. Is probably what's going on. And you go, how do we sell this? We're getting back to that Frank Miller level street era stuff. And it was like, I like Frank Miller. Frank Miller sounds good. Okay, this is good. That would be my guess as to what's probably going on.
It's so funny. We had to get through season 1 to get to season 2. Now we're like, let's get through season 2 so we get to season 3. Like, it's just so funny how this show is evolving in that way, and you're right, Michael. I'll tell you what, this is I'm exhausted of seeing content that's mirroring what's going on in our political world, because and listen, as you said, the story already existed. And I liked it when it was a fantasy and not a reality. And now that we're seeing the reality mixed with the fantasy, it just becomes exhausting to watch this kind of stuff that is reflective. Listen. So the idea of moving past it to something that I really enjoy, which is the Frank Miller era of Daredevil, excites me on so many levels. Yeah.
Well, and look, again, it's curious that they're talking about this now, to your point, because like we haven't even gotten to season 2, but it doesn't mean that season 2 is going to be bad.
No.
Like maybe they're going to rock that story once they've got the runway to do it. But when I was reading the interview, it was fun being political. But now I'm ready to move on to other stuff. I was like, that's a curious.
I'm reading between the lines.
Curious statement to make. And look, I think that the good thing about Daredevil, and you look at the run of Daredevil comics and you look at some of the most beloved Daredevil stories, some of them do lean into the political, and some of them are he's in the streets fighting the hand. So, I think that the good news is they've got the perfect cast. They wisely kept everybody, more people than they originally intended to, from the Netflix version.
Right.
Bringing in, like Shannon said, bringing in Kristen Ritter and some of these other people that were in the Netflix versions that were good, but maybe law of diminishing returns as their seasons went on. Yeah. But those characters are solid, and there's still a lot of really good stuff to mine there. So I am with Shannon that I'm rooting for the show, and I'm happy when it's political, and I'm happy when it's not. So we'll see what happens.
In season 3,
as long as it's
War
good.
of the Dragons is here.
Yeah, the promote season 3 go, well, once we get through season 3, we're going to get season 4. That's what really we're going to get.
Yeah, season 3's going to come out. They're like, well, the street level stuff is great, but the thing about Daredevil is he's really a ninja. You're like, oh, okay, cool.
Okay, here we go. All right, let's move on to the big topic that we're going to talk about here. And I did a whole hour and a half on this last night. You guys can watch my live show on that. So I want to hear from these guys what they think. So I'm just going to go through this real quick. But yeah, it is official here that Paramount has won the bid for WB. It doesn't mean that they're 100% going to get it yet, but they certainly won the bidding process, as Ted Sarandos and Netflix, conspicuously after a meeting at the White House, issued a statement that they were not going to bid for, they were going to pull out rather from the bid for WB. So what won the bid in the end and made it the winning offer? Paramount offered $31 per share and all cash for entire company, including networks, $25 per share ticking fee for every quarter past September 2026, $7 billion payout if deal is canceled for regulatory reasons, and they will pay a $2.8 billion breakup fee owed to Netflix, which reports came today. They already paid the $2.8 billion to Netflix, which is insane. Additional assurances of liquidity to confirm adequate deal funding. And also, it came out today that during the call that Zaslav had with the investors, that the deal, it was revealed, was for $110 billion, which is about $23 million more than Netflix, $23 billion more than Netflix had offered. So, Mike, your thoughts on all this? Were you surprised by this? What does it lead us to? I mean, anything you want to say on this, go ahead.
Honestly, I really want to know what that Ted Sarandos meeting at the White House was.
I mean,
I mean that in the way of like, it's a little too movie of the week to go. Ted Sarandos goes to Washington, goes into the White House. White House says, "Listen, buddy," sits him in a chair, rattles him up, leaves him there too long, doesn't give him a nice cup of water. Says, "Hey, buddy, let me tell you what you're going to do." And then he comes out and goes, "Yep, we're out."
That's a good Pam Bondi impression. Oh, what happened?
We lost it. Shannon got so upset. The White House came for Shannon.
Oh, no, not again.
What was that role that you auditioned for?
You say movie of the week, but I mean, it isn't like this administration doesn't do movie of the week shit, but go ahead.
It's true, but it's like, it's just so, I don't think it's as simple as he went in, they threatened Netflix or said, "We're going to fuck." I mean, maybe there is a world where they're like, we're going to use, we're going to use FCC violations to make your life a living hell if you do this. Right. Like, sure, it's possible, but there's also just the world where it was like, that just became too rich of a deal.
Yeah. Which
like it is like what Sarando said, which is like, look, at this point, this becomes not lucrative for us. Like, this is bad. This is a bad deal. And maybe there's something in between. I just like, I can't quite wrap my head around what this White House meeting was, which is why that out of everything is the most curious to me. Like, I'm just like, I really want to know how much they did play the heavy, we're going to put our thumb on this scale, and how much they didn't. And none of us will ever know. So we will all just speculate about it forever. Now that that's the done deal, it'll be interesting to see if this closes. Like there's a world where after all of this rigmarole and everything that happened, this deal doesn't close and Paramount pays out $7 million. $7 billion? What is it? $7 billion. And Warner Brothers stays Warner Brothers. And we just all call it a day and go, wasn't that a crazy time? Or, I mean, we're all going to look back on these several years and just go, how are we not all just in balls of trauma the entire time? Or all of a sudden, Paramount, Warner Brothers, CNN, all of it just becomes one giant thing. And where that goes, who knows? Like, I know that when we were arguing about this several months ago when it first came up, I was like, ultimately, this outcome is better to me than the Netflix outcome because of what that was going to mean for the theatrical business. However, now that we are sitting on the cusp of this being where we're going to go, I was like, maybe I was wrong. I don't know. Now I don't know how I feel about it. So I don't know. It's like most things in the entertainment industry currently, everything is so up in the air and so wild that it's impossible to speculate on where things are going to go next. It's so unsteady and unstable that it's hard to even think about it.
I wouldn't say it's impossible to speculate. I would say because everyone's speculating.
Like, that's cool. I'm going to speculate right now. I'm going to speculate.
I'm saying everyone's speculating, but it's hard to be right. It's hard to know who's going to be right with the speculation. I think that's fair to say for sure. And even David Zaslav's not even sure this thing is going to close. When he was talking on this call with the investors, he said, the deal may not close. If it doesn't close, we get $7 billion and we get back to work. And so a lot of people, and Shannon, I think we were saying this before we started, Netflix may still not be out of this deal by the time it all comes around. So what are your thoughts about this merger, the way it went down? And what do you think about Michael? Is Michael right? Are we never going to know what happened in this meeting between allegedly Pam Bondi and Ted Sarandos? What are your thoughts on that?
I would love it if we found out what was actually said in that meeting. You know, there have been
I thought you were going to say, I know what happened. I just can't talk about it on the show. I thought that's what you were going to say. I was about to lose my mind. Go ahead.
Yeah. The movie that I read for it was with Netflix. Ted brought me along. I mean, it was just a scheduling thing. I would love to know what was said, but you know, if this ends up being, because again, I think a lot of folks are not the biggest fans of David Zaslav. If this ends up being his evil genius plan the whole time to get $7 billion for doing nothing, be like, all right, everybody, we've got $7 billion in the bank. Let's just go back to work. Yeah, I mean, just based off of, you've seen the changes that have been made over at CBS, specifically in the news division, knowing that the folks behind those are now going to be in charge of a very big cable news network. I mean, it's not, it doesn't give a lot of encouragement for the political discourse that's happening right now in our country on the scripted side, because that's the side that affects us the most.
Right. Talking about it.
I'm not a huge fan of that many IPs being under one umbrella.
Yeah, as you talk about it, let me bring it up. Go ahead, Shannon.
I think one of the things that makes that can make any business great is competition.
Yeah.
And you know, when you have one studio that's going to be in charge of all this stuff, I mean, again, no one sets out to make a bad movie. Like the filmmakers want to make a good movie. Right. But you just don't have to work as hard when there's not as much competition. You don't have to go that extra mile, because at the end of the day, I mean, it might come down, hey, there's two companies, there's Disney and there's Paramount. So it's not the most encouraging thing. I mean, in terms, like, you know, Ellison saying like, look, we want to be in the movie business. I mean, they are in the movie business already. They got Paramount. Right. So yeah, I mean, I really hope for the strength of our industry, specifically in our city. I hope this is a good thing, but for me, it looked like Netflix would have been the better option for more production to come back here, because Netflix would have a lot of studio space from which to make their own stuff.
Yeah. And Michael, they're taking on a shit ton of debt. Like, there is so much debt they are taking on with this merger that it is actually just eye-popping if you look at the particulars and the amount of debt. And both of them just posted losses. Both Paramount, Skydance, and Warner Brothers posted losses. Now, Warner Brothers posted less of a loss than they did last year. I think it was like half of what they did last year. So things were turning around under Zaslav because of this. These films that DeLuca and Abdi had put out this past year, there was a lot of positive box office results out of all of that. And remember, they didn't even want to sell this thing. This was all about Paramount, who was launching hostile bids that started this whole process. Yeah. And the way it went down. But now the questions come for a lot of people who watch our show, because it is the Geek Buddies. It's like, what is going to happen to DC? Are they going to move James Gunn out? Right now, Paramount is saying they're going to keep James Gunn in his position. But is that going to be true? Is James Gunn even going to want to stay, because he sees this being led by a MAGA person like David Ellison? And who knows if David Ellison is doing all of this just to make this deal go through, because in the past he has donated to Democratic candidates. So where is his allegiance? Is it business above everything? And so he'll be in bed with anybody if it means he gets to where he wants to get to. And so there's a lot of questions around all of this. Go ahead, Mike.
I think that most people, we live in a really interesting time. I think most people don't make their decisions. We live in a world. I don't think most people make their decisions based on who somebody voted for. I know some people do. Like, and right now, currently where we are in our society, a lot of people, that is like their big thing. But like, do I think that James Gunn is like, I can either yes, they want me to continue to build this universe in the way that I was building it and continue to be in charge of all these movies, but this guy's MAGA, so I'm out. I don't know. Like, I don't know that's probably if he could choose, maybe he wouldn't want to work for that person, but ultimately, is that going to be the thing that makes him decide one way or the other? Like, I don't know. I think that I think it's when it comes to David Ellison's political leanings or the MAGA of it all, what I think is more interesting, particularly as it relates to all of these IPs, is less are people going to work for you because you're MAGA, or are you going to try and enforce these things? It's more just a cultural, sociological vibe of the types of stories you want to tell. So like we were talking about with G.I. Joe and other stuff, it's I want to focus on male-driven stories that tell this type of thing, or I'm unconcerned with DEI. I don't feel like we need to tick these boxes. I just want to tell stories that are great because they're great stories, but because they say that, they tend to keep hiring white male directors and white male stars and everything else. So I think there are valid concerns about the types of movies that are being made and who it is that is in those, tied to those movies creatively, both behind the camera and in front of the camera. But I don't think that the way the entertainment industry is going to drive on what's successful, what makes money at the box office. Right. And if they keep making money at the box office with movies that are more white male, straight led, they're going to continue to do that. I think where the politics becomes much more dicey, kind of what Shannon was saying, is on the news side of the business. Like when it comes to what's going to happen to CNN, right, like that's where it's like, well, yeah, they're probably just going to gut CNN. Like CNN is going to become unrecognizable. And the people that were working at CNN that were doing some kind of news are all going to go to MSNBC, and MSNBC is going to be transformed or something like that. Like that's going to be a thing. But, as of right now, I think if they say they're going to keep the DC universe with James Gunn running the DC universe, I think as of right now, they're going to. But it's like we said before, if Supergirl tanks and Clayface underperforms, they might change their tune really, really quickly. But to be fair, I think Zaslav might change his tune really, really quickly if they kept Warner Brothers and those two things happened. So I don't know that that's indicative of one thing or another. It'll be interesting. To Shannon's point about one company having that much IP. I mean, obviously, we don't seem that upset about it with Disney, who owns all the rest of the IP in town now. But it is true that when you only have those two people owning most of the IP, it is going to be really interesting. Universal's just chugging along over there with the Jurassic World movies and Fast and the Furious,
dinosaurs and minions. Dinosaurs and minions. That's all they need.
Yeah, I mean, Bloomberg said in their reporting on this that from what they hear, Paramount intends to keep much of the company intact, with CEO and controlling shareholder Dave Ellison set to keep the creative teams of both Warner Brothers Pictures and HBO in place, which bodes well for James Gunn. And I guess I should amend my point, because Michael, you made some good points here. It isn't just, we're living in a different time. This isn't like Bush versus Clinton or something. Like this is something where people see it completely differently, where one person is trying to create an authoritarian state and the other people are fighting against that to restore democracy. That's the way they see it. So I agree with you. Maybe the way someone votes doesn't necessarily affect, but if that person is coming in to offer you creative input on how they want your characters to be, and it's leaning towards more right-wing than left-wing, and it's antithetical to what you want to do, then I think that's where you as James Gunn go, well, do I really want to keep going, knowing that he's going to have to, or people representing him or whoever's in charge here is going to be telling me that I need to do it a certain way. That's, I think, where the concern is. But you have to balance things out, because I was doing some research myself last night, looking at Ellis and stuff. He's produced a lot of stuff that you could argue is left-wing or has left-wing ideology to it. He just hired Daly and Goldstein to do Star Trek, which I imagine will be a much more interesting, nuanced, diverse, or not much more diverse, but will follow the path of diversity, but telling a different story here. So it isn't like he's bringing in the Daily Wire and bringing in all of these right-wingers just yet. So does that mean that he's going to look at this and be a little more balanced in his approach, and all our fears and concerns will be soothed by what he does? I don't know. But you're right on the news side of things, because it's already come out that they want to put CNN under CBS, which is being run by Bari Weiss, who is just a puppet for Trump, which is nonsense, which is mind-blowing. So
the news side is, I don't know what happens to the news business. It would be wild. But to your point, like, I guess what I'm saying is, and even to what you're saying, like, I think that aside from we need to have lots of diverse voices, both in front of the camera and behind the camera, which is something I think is very true. And I know that people on the other side of the political spectrum sometimes don't think is as true. And I think that's a big sticking point. So if you come in and you have that political perspective, that's a problem. I don't think that David Ellison is going to sit and like read a Star Trek script or a Superman script or a Harry Potter script and go, you know what this needs? More authoritarianism. You know what this needs is like, I think we need to get rid of this message that feels a little left-leaning. Like, I don't think that that's how it works. I think that if the movie and the franchise is going to make you a shit ton of money, you're going to go, okay, go do your thing. You seem to know what you're doing. James Gunn, your DC universe is doing well. It's making a lot of money for the company. This is great. Keep doing it. So I don't know that it's going to affect the business. Or another way to look at it is, most people would say that Taylor Sheridan shows are more right-leaning than left-leaning. You could argue that that's
ridiculous, but yeah.
You could argue that's true or not, but like, I know a lot of people who are right-leaning who think Taylor Sheridan is amazing, and I know lots of left-leaning people, including friends of ours, who refuse to watch Taylor Sheridan shows because they don't want to watch those MAGA shows. So is Taylor Sheridan right-leaning or left-leaning? Like what, like, you know, that's where I think it's, when you try and categorize everything as this creative thing is right or this creative thing is left, I think you start to get really, it gets really messy really quickly.
Well, I think it's about watching it, right? And if any of our left-leaning friends should not comment on something they haven't watched. And if you haven't watched Taylor Sheridan show,
have you checked Twitter? A lot of people comment on things that they don't watch.
And all of those people can kiss my ass. So you have to watch the stuff to make an informed decision and opinion on it. And if you're not going to, then don't chime with an opinion, because your opinion doesn't matter if you don't watch it. That's the way
it's
I look
moo.
at it. It's moo. So I look at all, but I hear what you're saying. But, you know, there is, I don't know. I'll say this. I will create space for your possibility. And we'll see down the road if that's true. Obviously, I don't think Ellison is sitting in some empire and they're just tossing, saying he's reading scripts. No. But there are people under him who might be
more Nazis.
Yeah, more Nazis, right. Who might be tasked with, no, the white man must win always. There might be people under him who do that. Because remember, they're trying to please Trump. And if Trump and his Laura Loomers start to look at this stuff and go, wait a minute, there's too many black people in this. There's too many. It could become a mess. So I think there's a lot about this that still needs to be hammered out. We'll see how it goes. But we also have to create space for it to not be as bad as we think it might be, right? There has to be an openness to this. We can have our fears, but the content's going to let us know. And we'll see the content and we'll judge for ourselves when the content starts to come out. Real.
The other piece of this, not to open up a whole other can of worms, but I don't think you can talk about one without talking about the other is forget the politics, forget any of that, forget about any of those things.
Yeah.
We're on the verge of a serious AI revolution within the entertainment industry.
Yes.
And Disney has already kind of tried to get in front of it with their OpenAI deal. But to Shannon's point about two conglomerates owning most of the IP in town,
Yeah.
sure, they do, but they're about to be competing with a bunch of voices that never had the technology to create their own stories, starting to create their own stories. And whether you agree with that and agree with how AI is going to work or not, it's here and it's happening. Like you scroll through Twitter and every 5 seconds you see the next level of AI iteration. And so they might be way less concerned about the politics of their stories in a year or so than they are about how do we even get people into theaters to watch this stuff, or how do we keep up with these other voices that are starting to pop up. And there might be an entire generation behind us that goes, why would I ever go to a movie theater to see these old school movies made by these old studios when what I'm watching here is way more interesting and entertaining to me? Like, I'm not saying I would enjoy that world, but that is a world that could be coming sooner than later. So that's where everything is so precarious and unsteady right now, is that it's not just this giant merger that's going to change the shape of Hollywood in a much the same way that the Disney Fox merger did. But there's also the political aspect to it that we're talking about here. And then there's also the AI aspect to it, that we're about to run into like the fucking Wild West of the next generation of entertainment and cinema and what it even means. And nobody knows where we're landing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we we've heard, Shannon, that people were like, well, you know, some people, Paramount should get it because I'll get physical media, the theaters will stay open and all this kind of stuff. But Michael brings up an excellent point, and I tweeted this out earlier. Ellison said he wanted to put 30 theatrical movies out a year. He's promised this, right? But that's impossible, especially if you're going to gut the staff, like they're talking about gutting the staff with the $6 billion changes, which might be $16 billion combination they need to cut. But is this a possibility that we're talking 30 theatrical films and most of them are AI? I mean, this is a very what Michael was bringing up here. Okay, we'll hit that quota, but most of them are AI. We're at that place now where that's a real possibility down the road.
I think the reality of an AI movie is probably closer than we would prefer. But giving the access to this technology does not necessarily give, and this is more about like the folks that are going to be able to like, hey, I want to see Superman and the Hulk arm wrestle. Like, right. You know, the folks who really want to see that, like, that is not a movie. Like, do you have the ability to make that look as real? You can make your Hulk look like the Eric Bana Hulk. You can have Brandon Routh as your Superman.
Right.
A lot of the things that we see, these demonstrations of what AI can do technologically, do they look cool? Do they look impressive? Yes. For my eyes, and granted, my eyes are going to be different than your normal moviegoer. My eyes, I'm like, something's off.
Yeah.
Will it improve? Absolutely. But when you're watching a 30-second clip of Superman and Hulk beating the crap out of each other, that's not a movie. That's not a movie. I mean, it doesn't matter how good you can make. Like, we've got that in the theaters now, things that look amazing, and it's just stuff. And some of them succeed because they have the IP backing, and some of them don't, because it's like, I don't know what this is, and it doesn't mean anything. Now, to the Ellison thing about releasing over 30 movies a year, which is a pretty grand undertaking, the idea that one or several of those movies could be all AI, for me, that is troubling. I don't know how realistic that is, but I think we are so far away. I mean, remember when Final Fantasy came out in like early 2000s?
Oh yeah.
The day of the actor is numbered based off of this. Man, that didn't happen. I mean,
no, nobody went to see it.
And granted, well, and the people that did go to see it, like, boy, that sucked. So the all CGI movie, do we get that? We do. We get that with animated films. We've gotten some CG real films, mainly from Robert Zemeckis. But will an all AI movie happen? Yeah. Will it be good? Will people care?
I'm not worried at any time soon about an all AI movie. And I also think, to the point of what we're actually talking about, because the AI in film could be an entire other Geek Buddies episode, but
true.
I don't think we're in danger of an entire AI film happening anytime soon, for all the reasons that Shannon just said. But what is going to happen, because AI is going to come along and it's going to make visual effects, the ability to do top line visual effects, happen much faster and much cheaper than before. And all of the hundreds of visual effects studios that have popped up in the past 20 years plus since Jurassic Park came out are going to close. Or many of them are going to close, and the visual effects industry is going to be decimated. And a lot of those visual effects artists who were working for those studios are going to go start using AI. And these are the people that have been making the end of Avengers Endgame and the Star Wars TIE Fighter X-Wing battle scenes. And they're going to start using AI, and they're going to find the next generation's Wachowskis, and they're going to make something, not all AI with AI actors and AI stuff. They're going to go film sets and they're going to do whatever, but they're going to do exactly what they've been doing at visual effects studios. They're just going to be able to do it with a quarter of the people. And they're going to release a movie at some point, and maybe it's going to be in 5 years, and maybe it's going to be in 10 years. And we're going to be doing Geek Buddies, because we're still going to be chugging along, and we're going to review it, and we are going to talk about how, like, well, Paramount, Ellison ruined that, and man, Disney's struggling, but this 9th Star Wars Rey movie is not doing it for me, and this 33rd X-Men movie isn't it. But have you seen this movie?
Yeah.
And it's going to be made with people who've actually been working in the industry for years, and it's going to have real actors in it, but it's going to be a completely different experience. And that's where it's going to get really weird.
Well, this is why I look at it at a macro level and go, what was the point of this? What is the goal here? Because this is taking on not only a lot of debt, a lot of franchises, and a lot of headaches. Are you going to be able to navigate? You, David Ellison, yes, you'll have people under you and all of that, but are you all going to be able to navigate all of these issues? Do I trust that David Ellison has shown me enough in his management of Paramount so far and his stuff with Skydance that he's the person who's going to be able to handle all these headaches and manage this debt and start turning a profit at some point down the road? I don't know that I feel that way. And I think that's the thing at the end of the day. This could absolutely implode for both of these studios, Paramount and Warner Brothers. And we are all, as fans who want to enjoy great content from these franchises, are going to suffer for it because we're not going to see this great content or have it delayed, or it'll come out a mishmash and it'll just be disappointing. So, or it might be great. We just don't know.
And listen, man, I mean, like right now, Kevin Feige's it, man, as far as old guard goes. Like you think, because like, again, when you look at the big picture of all the stuff that we talk about every week on Geek Buddies, if this goes through, so Warner Brothers joins with Paramount, changes the trajectory of all of those things. James Gunn is 1 year into his DC universe, so it's still unproven. Filoni is taking over here. Josh D'Amaro and Dana Walden are taking over above him. Like Feige's chugging along on Marvel for now. See how the next year goes there. But like while this whole Ellison thing is happening and AI is hovering just around the corner, you have a whole new generation of people that have stepped up into the leadership roles. And we don't know what's going to happen with any of it.
Yeah, 100%. But as Michael said, apparently we're going to be covering it for the years to come here, chugging along on the Geek Buddies. So make sure you stay tuned to everything we're going on here on the channel as we do shows every week. Yes.
My name is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and actor, and you may have seen me in a recent commercial for Activia yogurt.
Whoa. I was really hoping you were going to go the more technological route, but you went the poop yogurt. All right.
It got Jamie Lee an Oscar. Eventually.
Activia.
I pooped my pants. I just pooped my pants.
Well, if any of you have or haven't, we appreciate you watching or listening to us. Thank you so much. This is our episode of the Geek Buddies here. Shannon, what do we have to tell these wonderful people?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media on Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies, on Instagram at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. Don't buy the Activia yet. I'm not an officially with them. If you'd like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MKToon. If you'd like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says.
Mike.
Go ahead and smash that like button below. Subscribe to Johnny's John Rocha page. Check out all the amazing content he has got there. Leave your comments below. What do you think of everything that we talked about today? It was quite a list of things, from Zack Snyder to James Gunn to David Ellison to street level Daredevil to I don't even remember what else we talked about because it was a whole lot. Leave it in the comments below. If you like Activia yogurt and you're mad at me, made a joke about it, let us know in the comments below. If you're listening to us on a podcast, leave us some stars and comments so we go up in the rankings. And as always, the best thing you can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, send it to your friends, and tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
There you go. Thank you all so much. We appreciate you badly. Have a great weekend. Do what you need to do. If you're in a bad place, stuff's going crazy, go watch old episodes of us. I guarantee you we'll make you laugh. We'll put a smile on your face. We'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode here of the
Geek
Buddy, sponsored by Activia.
Hey!